This speech is about the death penalty and should it be allowed. Crime is everywhere. Everywhere we look, we find criminals and crime. Criminals have become a part of our daily lives. Does this mean we let them be the darkness of our society? No, we definitely not. Eliminating crime and criminals is our duty, and we cannot ignore it. Getting the rightly accused to a just punishment is very important. Some criminals commit a crime because they have no other options to survive, but some do it for fun. I do not advocate the death penalty for everybody. A person who stole bread from a grocery store definitely does not deserve the death penalty. However, a serial killer who kills people for the fun or for his own personal gain definitely deserves the death penalty. Deterrence means to punish somebody as an example and to create fear in other people for the punishment. Death penalty is one of those extreme punishments that would create fear in the mind of any sane person. Everybody fears death, even animals. Most criminals would think twice if they knew their own lives were at stake. Although there is no statistical evidence that death penalty deters crime, but we have to agree that most of us fear death. Suppose there is no death penalty in the state and life imprisonment without parole is the maximum punishment. What is stopping a prisoner who is facing a life imprisonment without parole to commit another murder in the prison? According to Paul Van Slambrock, assaults in prisons are all over U.S., both against fellow inmates and against staff, have more than doubled in the past decade. According to statistics gathered by the Criminal Justice Institute in Middletown, Connecticut, there is no stopping these inmates from committing further crimes within the prisons. If they are already facing the maximum punishment, anti-death penalty advocates argue that imprisonment itself could deter criminals. They believe that we do not need to go to the extreme measure of killing the criminals to deter crime. Hugo Adam Bidet is, in his article, Capital Punishment and Social Defense, mentions crimes can be deterred only by making would-be criminals frightened of being arrested, convicted, and punished for crimes. Anti-death penalty advocates believe that death penalty is irreversible and may become a cause of irreversible mistakes. Once a person has been sentenced to death and does death penalty practice, there is nothing that can be done to undo the punishment if the accused turns out to be innocent. I agree that the death penalty is irreversible, but the chance of making a mistake in a death penalty is extremely low. Death penalty is considered an extreme punishment, and the judicial system takes a lot of care in finalizing the decision. There are several safeguards guaranteeing protection of the rights of those facing the death penalty. According to Tanya Browning, capital punishment may be imposed only when guilt is determined by clear and convincing evidence, leaving no room for an alternate explanation or of the facts. Anyone sentenced to death shall receive the right to appeal to a court of higher jurisdiction. There are several other privileges provided to the convicted that assures that the death penalty is given to the rightly accused person. According to Haig, trials are more likely to be fair when life is at stake. The death penalty is probably less often unjustly inflicted than others. Statistics reveal that there are far less number of death sentences than life imprisonment sentences without parole given out every year. When an innocent person is sentenced to death, it is not the fault of the punishment itself, but the trial that led to this punishment. There have been cases in which a person has been sentenced to life imprisonment without parole, and then after several years, it was revealed that that person was innocent. No court or compensation in the world can return the horrifying years spent in prison by the innocent person. If we stop giving life imprisonment sentence to criminals on this ground, then probably most of the criminals would be walking around free on the street within 10 to 15 years. The fear and trust that the society has in the judicial system would be lost. The judicial system has minimized the chances of mistakes. It is almost impossible to sentence a wrongly accused person. Then why cause death of several innocent victims just on the bleak assumption that someday we might make a mistake? People who have no social purpose do not benefit society, culture, or mankind, or the basic rules of humanity. For example, this drug-related brain damage killer barely knew his own identity when he murdered a mother and her daughter in front of a 3-year-old boy. When he was finished raping the females, he performed their deaths. He moved on to sexually molest the boy, in which then he left him to die. The retarded man then pled insanity, got to stay in jail for 22 years, eating 3 square meals a day, sleeping on a mattress with a blanket in an air-conditioned comfort, and having a roof over his head. Where do we draw the line between mentally incapable and criminal insane? When are they going to learn to resume this responsibility for their actions? I'm not saying that all mentally disabled people should be subject to the death penalty, because they are no good to the society. In such cases, the death penalty becomes crucial for the benefit of the society. I believe every criminal soul, no matter how cruel he is, should be given at least one chance to change him or herself. Thus, I do not advocate death penalty for people who have performed only one murder. However, there have been cases in which people have committed several murders or have committed crime even after imprisonment. For such people, I advocate the death penalty. If somebody does not understand that going around killing people is wrong, then I believe that letting such people live is not only a great threat to the society, but also a great burden. Advocate of the anti-death penalty, Adam Badu wrote, "Prevention by means of incapitation occurs only if the executed criminal would have committed other crimes if he or she had not been executed and had been punished only in some less incapitative way." According to the federal justice statistic, in 1998, there were approximately 5,000 criminals sentenced to life imprisonment as opposed to 74 criminals sentenced to death. Some people might think that the death penalty is inhuman and barbarous. But I ask those people have lost their beloved or whose life has been tied to the hospital bed because of some barbarous person. I am sure that they would be very unhappy to see the person who has ruined their lives just getting a few years imprisonment or mere rehabilitation. Anti-death penalty supporters believe that the death penalty is barbarous. Well, so is murder. The death penalty is not revenge. Rather, it is a matter of putting an end to a life that has no value for human lives. Sentencing a murderer for death is, in fact, a favor to the society. Despite the moral arguments concerning the inhuman treatment of the criminal, we return to the nature of the crime committed. The death penalty is good and serves a definite purpose of reducing crime as well as bringing justice to the criminals and innocent. In order to serve its purpose, it must be adjusted and made more effective and efficient. The justice system has changed dramatically in the past 30 years in order to make sure that the rightly accused is brought to justice. I believe that the death penalty should not be abolished, as it ensures the safety of the society, brings justice and those who have suffered, and most importantly helps in reducing crime and criminals in our society. The death penalty is important to keep the brightness of the justice and the public safety shining brightly in our society. Thank you.